You ever have one of those weeks, or maybe it's been a month, where you just feel completely drained? You're just exhausted, but at the same time, you're constantly hungry, always reaching for another snack. It's a really frustrating feeling, and it's so easy to just write it off as, oh, it's just a rough patch. But what if it's actually something more than that? What if you're caught in a cycle? Well, today, we're going to break down that exact connection, the one between burnout and overeating.
So does this question right here, does it hit home for you? That combination of being deeply tired paired with that nagging, persistent hunger? If it does, I want you to know you are definitely not alone. This is an incredibly common experience, especially in the high-stress world we all live in. And it's a really clear signal that your body and your mind are trying to tell you something important.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. To really get what's going on here, we first need to have a really clear picture of what burnout actually is. It's a word we hear all the time. But its connection to what's on our plate, well, it's a lot deeper and a lot more biological than you might think. We're going to explore exactly how these two things are so closely linked.
So, what are we really talking about with burnout syndrome? Well, at its core, it's a state of total exhaustion. We're talking emotionally, physically, and mentally. And the key word here is that it's caused by prolonged stress. See, this isn't the result of just one bad day at the office. This is what happens after weeks, months, or even years of being under constant pressure. And the symptoms, well, they're that feeling of just not caring anymore, finding it impossible to focus on anything, and that low mood that you just can't seem to shake.
And this is such a critical point to understand. Burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's not a personal failing. It's your body's very real physiological response to chronic stress. There are actual, measurable changes happening inside of you. It's not something you can just think your way out of, because it has physical drivers that we have to address.
So that leads us to the big question, right? Why is it that when we're at our most stressed and exhausted, we find ourselves reaching for the junk food? It can feel like we just have zero willpower, but the truth is, there are some really powerful biological forces at play here. So let's take a look at the actual science behind why stress makes us want to eat. Okay, so let's break this process down because it's actually pretty fascinating. First, when you're stressed, your body pumps out a hormone called cortisol. You can think of it as your body's long-term alarm system, and one of its main jobs is to crank up your appetite. Then you get to step 2. Cortisol doesn't just make you hungry for, say, a salad. Nope. It specifically dials up your cravings for high-sugar, high-fat foods. The classic comfort foods. And finally, in step 3, your brain's feel-good chemicals like serotonin and dopamine, they get all thrown out of whack by the stress. This makes you actively seek out that quick, temporary mood boost you get from food.
And this quote right here just hits the nail on the head. It's not just a passing feeling. It's a powerful biological push. Your body is literally working against your best intentions. It's creating this intense physical drive to eat those comfort foods because, on a primitive level, it thinks it's helping you survive. It's an old-school response to a very modern problem.
But here's the twist. This is where the cycle gets really vicious. It's not a one-way street where stress just leads to eating. The food choices we make when we're stressed actually feed back into the system, and they make the symptoms of burnout even worse. Let's see how that works. This chart tells the story perfectly. You eat that sugary snack and you get that first bar, that quick sugar rush, a brief moment of high energy. Feels good, right? But then your body releases a flood of insulin to deal with all that sugar. That's the second bar. And what always follows, as you can see in that third bar, is the inevitable crash, and it leaves you with even less energy and more fatigue than when you started. You're basically riding an energy roller coaster that always ends at the bottom. And beyond that energy crash, there are other hidden costs. First, like we just saw, you're left with wasted energy. You're more tired than before. Second, your sleep quality just plummets. When you eat heavy, sugary meals late at night, your body is working overtime on digestion when it should be focused on resting and repairing itself. And third, and this is a big one, these foods can cause low-grade, chronic inflammation throughout your body, which directly impacts your brain, worsening your mood and making it even harder to concentrate. Okay, so we've laid out the problem. We understand the biology behind this whole cycle. And I know, that can feel a bit daunting. But the good news is, once you understand the mechanism, you can start to take it apart. So now let's pivot to the solutions. Let's talk about some real, actionable strategies you can use to break this cycle for good.
This slide lays out the choice so clearly, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the habits that keep that burnout cycle spinning, constantly snacking on sweets, eating right before bed, relying on processed foods. But then, on the right, you have the alternative. And notice how simple these are. This isn't about some crazy restrictive diet. It's about consistency, timing your last meal to help you sleep better, and focusing on balanced, nutrient-rich foods.
Think of this as your nutritional toolkit for fighting back against stress. The vitamin B group, for instance, is absolutely essential for producing energy at a cellular level. Magnesium is kind of like nature's calming mineral. It helps relax your nervous system. Omega-3s, you find those in things like fish, they directly fight that inflammation we talked about. And quality protein, that is your key to getting off that energy roller coaster for good by keeping you full and your blood sugar stable.
Now, beyond individual nutrients, there's a specific strategy for timing your meals that can be really effective, and that's intermittent fasting. Now, I know it might sound intense, but the core idea behind it is incredibly powerful for resetting this whole cycle. And the most important thing to get here is that this is not about starving yourself, or even about what you eat. It's simply about when you eat. By creating a consistent window for your meals, say an 8 or 10-hour window each day, you give your digestive system a much-needed break. This helps stabilize that blood sugar roller coaster, which in turn reduces cravings and allows your body's energy levels to finally even out.
All right, so we've covered the problem and we've talked about the solutions. The final and maybe the most important piece of this puzzle is self-awareness. Let's look at the key warning signs that can tell you when you might be caught up in this cycle.
So just take a moment and honestly ask yourself, do any of these sound familiar? Do you find yourself eating but never really feeling satisfied? Are you just exhausted all day but then you find it impossible to get good sleep at night? Have you kind of lost your usual drive or focus? Are those cravings for junk food a constant battle? Just recognizing these patterns, that's the first step.
And I really want this message to sink in. Simply becoming aware of these patterns is a huge victory. This isn't about judging yourself or feeling guilty. It's just about observation. Once you can see the cycle for what it is, a biological loop, not a personal failing, that's when you can begin to consciously take steps to change it. Awareness gives you back your power.
I love this final quote. It just perfectly summarizes everything we've talked about today. It reframes food not as the enemy or as a source of guilt, but as a tool, a powerful tool that you can use every single day to manage your stress, protect your energy, and support your mental health.
So, as we close this out, I'm just going to leave you with this question. Not a huge overhaul, not some dramatic life change, but one small thing. Maybe it's deciding to finish dinner 2 hours before bed tonight. Maybe it's swapping just one sugary drink for a glass of water. Or maybe it's just committing to pay a little more attention to your body's hunger cues. Whatever it is, what is that one small change you can make today to start breaking the cycle and taking back your energy?